Okay, so I'm going to take you through today the maximal muscle building macros. It's the perfect macro split to build optimal amount of muscle mass, keep lean body fat down. So we can take you through that now so you can practically implement this with your own nutrition and training to get as much muscle built as possible. So in terms of macronutrients, what is a macronutrient? So obviously that's protein, carbohydrates and fats, and how much of each of these do we need? So we're first going to start with protein. So protein is the most important natural macro when it comes to muscle building. So the key here is to make sure we have enough protein coming in to allow adequate recovery, because protein is the main macronutrient that allows for muscle to repair. So in terms of how much protein you need, I recommend 1.6 to 2.2 grams per kilo of body weight. So in terms of where do you start with that, I would always suggest maybe start on slightly the lower end, so closer to 1.6. And as you start to grow and you start to bulk up, and maybe your progress starts to slow, you can start to push an edge towards more the 2.2 grams of protein per kilo of body weight. In terms of protein sources, always recommend obviously the basics. So you can have really high quality meats in terms of steak, chicken, and then you've got also obviously like fish, things like white fish in terms of cod, salmon, prawns, squid. Those are also my favourites. And then you've got other things like eggs, whey protein. You can use some dairy products like Greek yogurt, the list goes on. So make sure you get protein in. That's where I'd recommend we sit on terms of protein for maximal muscle building. Next up, we have got carbohydrates. So this is probably the most misunderstood macronutrient that most people tend to pussy out on, to be honest with you. So a lot of people are very, very scared of carbohydrates. So if you're in a lean position where you're looking to try and build muscle mass, you can generally push this quite high. So it very, very much depends on your body composition, and if your goal is to build maximal muscle, I'd also firstly make sure you are in a lean position, because you're trying to build as much muscle mass as possible, but you're holding body fat. Your body's not in a prime hormonal position to actually add muscle mass on. It will add muscle mass, but also accumulate body fat at the same time, which you're then going to have to diet off, which will take longer. So that's one thing to be aware of. So in terms of carbohydrates, I would suggest for most people you're looking around 3 grams per kilo of body weight is a good starting point. So for most people that's going to be a hefty amount of carbs, and we want these from good quality carbohydrates. So things like white rice, potatoes, you can even have fruit, you can even have things like cereal post-workout. And what I always suggest with the carbs, try and have carbohydrates that are lower in fat. So try to avoid things like processed junk food, cheesecakes, things like that, pizza. We want carbohydrates to come from good foods that our body's actually going to absorb correctly, and it's not going to cause gut distress. So lastly, we have fats. So again, fats are very misunderstood in terms of why we need to have these in the diet. Fats are very, very important because, in particular, if you're looking to try and add muscle mass, they're very calorie dense. So to give you an idea, fats have 9 calories, carbs have 4 calories, and protein is 4 calories as well. And that's per gram. So if we're looking to try and get calories in, and we want to grow, we want to get some new tissue on, we need to make sure we have fats coming in purely just from a calorie point of view, so we're not just having to go batshit crazy with protein and carbs. So in terms of fats, how much would I recommend? I would generally recommend 1 gram per kilo of body weight. That's generally what I find is optimal for most people in the muscle gaining phase. In terms of how to split this up, and the big thing with fats as well is to make sure we've got good quality fats. So we want essential fatty acids, which are very important for brain and cognitive function, and also overall health and cardiac health as well, which is very, very important. So in terms of sources of fats, I'd recommend things like wild salmon is amazing. You've also got like extra virgin olive oil is incredible, coconut oil, nuts, things like almonds, Brazil nuts, cashew nuts, seeds. These are all great options to add extra good quality fats into your diet. So that's fats covered off. So in terms of that being calorie dense, it's very, very good to add into that. And that's the last of the 3 of the maximal muscle building macros. And I'm taking you through an example of how practically this would look for someone who's, say, 100 kilos. Okay, so that's everything worked out here for 100 kilos as an example. So we're going to take, for example, 1.6 to 2.2 kilos of body weight as a protein start point. So we're starting at the very bottom end of this position here. So we're going to presume someone is maybe at a lower calorie base. Obviously, this would all be person dependent in the individual. So what their current food looks like, what the current body composition looks like. So here we're going to take this example from the bottom end. So we're going to start with 160 grams of protein because they weigh 100 kilos times 1.6 is 160. So that's 480 calories. In terms of carbohydrates, so it'd be 3 grams per kilo. So we're going to have 300 grams of carbs, which is 1,200 calories. And the fats, we're going to go for 100 grams of fats at 1 gram per kilo of body weight is 900, which gives us a daily total of 2,580, which is just above maintenance for most people. So this would be the starting point, and then what I would look to do with something like this is incrementally we would look to try and increase this upwards. But the key here, which most people do go wrong when they're trying to bulk up and add muscle tissue, is this number here for calories starts way too high for most people. So most people go in and they'll start at like 4,000, and yeah, cool, they start adding like a kilo of body weight a week. But guess what? No one's adding a kilo of muscle mass a week, and that's just a fact. All you're doing is just accumulating more body fat. So this is my recipe for maximal muscle building whilst staying lean and shredded, and also bringing your body weight up slowly. So we look to slowly manipulate this upwards as we go by increasing the protein, and then gradually probably increasing the carbohydrates up gradually from there as well. This would also give a bit of a leeway, say for at the weekend, where you can use what I do with my clients, which is called the free meal method, where you can go out at the weekend, you can have what you want for one meal, and you can bump up the calories a little bit from there. So hope this example was helpful, gives you a bit of practical tips you can implement with your own nutrition. If you have any questions, drop a comment below the video. If you need any help with your own one-to-one diet, then hit the link below and you can book in your free 6-pack strategy call, and we can discuss with you how you can build as much muscle mass as possible in a short time frame as possible, whilst gaining as least fat as possible. So hope you found this helpful. Smash the like button, hit the subscribe, and we'll catch up with you next video.